Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about Stoicism and how to free yourself from emotions. Lessons from Stoicism. You're starting to get familiar with my interest in Stoicism. It's a philosophy that I've already talked to you about on several occasions and that I believe deserves to be promoted. Because it's a practical philosophy, because it's a philosophy that doesn't require any particular background in philosophy to understand it, and because its teachings are addressed to everyone. There are philosophers who talk about things that don't interest many people, or at least who talk about them in terms that may not resonate with us. Whereas the Stoics, on the other hand, talk to us about familiar things. They talk to us about emotions, desires, disappointments, and suffering. In short, all those things that punctuate our daily lives and that many of us no longer question. Because we've integrated suffering, we've also integrated disappointment and regret. We've normalized them under the idea that if these things are part of our lives, they must be part of life. And therefore, we can't change anything about them. Well, what the Stoics tell us is that we can change something, that we can even radically change things. But it involves becoming aware of them first. When we evolve in emotional stress, when we evolve in frustration, anger, and all these negative emotions, we become aware of them and end up embracing them. We end up merging with them, a bit like we get used to gravity. When you walk, you don't say to yourself that you're evolving in gravity. But if you fall from the 4th floor, you're going to realize it. Well, it's the same thing with emotions. We get used to them. We normalize them to the point of no longer being aware of them. What the Stoics tell us is that no, suffering doesn't have to be normalized. No, disappointment and regret don't have to be normalized. No negative emotion, and even no emotion at all, has to be normalized. We can free ourselves from our emotions. I should specify that the Stoics didn't use the word emotion. They spoke of passions. We are in antiquity. The vocabulary was not exactly the same. And passions, unlike the image we have of them today, are not something positive. Passion, from the Greek pathos, is what we undergo. Passion makes us passive. And pathos is at the same time suffering, the pain of the soul. So when I say that, according to the Stoics, we can free ourselves from our emotions, it is obviously necessary to take the time to explain. Because I can hear people saying, how can we free ourselves from our emotions? But emotions can't be controlled. An emotion is something we observe or witness. We're not responsible for it, because we're not responsible for our sensitivity. Well, this is where I'm going to have to give some explanations. For the Stoics, we are responsible for our emotions because our emotions are the product of the judgments we make about the world. Of the judgment we make about others and the judgment we make about ourselves. Clearly, for the Stoics, to free oneself from emotions and the suffering that comes from them is to free oneself from judgment. We will start with a quote from Epictetus. I remind you that he was a Stoic who had the particularity of being a slave. In fact, the name Epictetus means servant in Greek. Epictetus said, what troubles men is not things but the judgments they make about things. It may seem like a small thing, but this sentence sums it all up. Now let's try to understand why he says that. To say that what troubles us is not things but the judgments we make about things is to say that things could not affect us if we did not accept that they do. In other words, we accept that things affect us because we place judgments on them, and it is these judgments that are the real cause of our suffering. Let's take a concrete example. Imagine that a friend betrays you. You can imagine any kind of scenario. They gossip about you behind your back, they steal money from you, they cheat on your fiancé, whatever you can imagine. Imagine that you learn that this friend has betrayed you. At that moment, what are you going to feel? Well, if you're anything like most people, you're going to resent them. You're going to feel anger, maybe even rage or hatred. Certainly. Let's delve further into how we can continue to apply Stoic principles to our daily lives and further explore the path to emotional freedom. One powerful Stoic practice that can aid in freeing ourselves from emotions is the concept of amor fati, joie or love of fate. This idea, championed by Stoic philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, encourages us to embrace all aspects of our lives, including the inevitable hardships and setbacks. Instead of resisting or resenting difficult circumstances, we can choose to accept them wholeheartedly and find meaning and purpose in every experience. Amor fati invites us to reframe adversity as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Rather than lamenting what has happened or longing for a different outcome, we can cultivate gratitude for the lessons learned and the strength gained through adversity. By embracing our fate with open arms, we transcend the limitations of fear and resistance, allowing us to live more fully and authentically. Another essential aspect of Stoic philosophy is the practice of virtue ethics. According to the Stoics, true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life of virtue, guided by reason and moral excellence. Instead of pursuing fleeting pleasures or external accolades, we should focus on cultivating qualities such as wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. By aligning our actions with virtuous principles, we can navigate life's challenges with integrity and resilience. Virtue ethics reminds us that our worth as individuals is not determined by external circumstances or material possessions, but by the strength of our character and the goodness of our deeds. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us the importance of maintaining a sense of inner tranquility amidst the chaos of the world. Through practices such as meditation, journaling, and mindfulness, we can cultivate a calm and centered mindset that is less susceptible to the whims of external events. By grounding ourselves in the present moment and cultivating a deep awareness of our thoughts and emotions, we can avoid being swept away by the tide of passing circumstances. Instead of reacting impulsively to external stimuli, we can respond thoughtfully and intentionally, guided by our values and principles. Ultimately, the journey to emotional freedom is not a destination but a lifelong practice. It requires diligence, self-awareness, and a willingness to embrace discomfort and uncertainty. By incorporating Stoic teachings into our daily lives, we can cultivate greater resilience, wisdom, and inner peace, allowing us to live with clarity, purpose, and integrity. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a timeless blueprint for navigating the complexities of the human experience and finding solace amidst life's inevitable trials and tribulations. By embracing the Stoic virtues of courage, wisdom, and temperance, we can free ourselves from the shackles of our own judgments and live with greater clarity, purpose, and tranquility. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." So let us embrace the wisdom of the Stoics and free ourselves from the bondage of our own emotions, embracing each moment with grace, resilience, and amor fati. We appreciate you tuning in to this brief podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for the next video about philosophers of antique, West Greek, and contemporane.